Hello everyone and welcome back to AK Academy. It has been a long time since publishing the last video, but right now we are back again with hopefully a lot of power, a lot of new courses and new topics and new sessions to cover in the world of software development, especially cloud and .NET. Many of stuff to continue as well. But right now, here we have a new interesting topic. We already covered part of it in the Azure Active Directory B2C, and it was somehow a real scenario. But right now, we are going to go deeper and deeper. So we will start with the general things in this video, and then we will see more stuff. So basically, the topic of this new series is going to be how to build a secure cloud applications with Blazor WebAssembly, ASP.NET Core Web API, and securing all of those using Azure Active Directory B2C. So in this video, we are going to see how to create your own tenant, how to initialize the application, the client and the server, how to register the applications, the user flows, and so on. And then video after video, we are going to cover more and more topics within this world and this topic. So let's first get started by just make a general and a quick overview about what we are going to do and what's Azure Active Directory B2C in general. So Active Directory B2C is just an identity management service provided by Microsoft, available on Azure. So this means it's available on the cloud. This means all the security, the scalability, the also features, the easy to consume, the SDK that we have, everything is just ready for us. And Active Directory allows to authenticate users of your organizations, but Active Directory B2C is, from the name, like it's B2C, which means business to consumer or business to customers. So this means you have a business, like let's say you have a marketplace or you have an online store, and then you want to give a flexibility for your users to create accounts and get into the system without the headache of implementing that security stuff, reset password, creating account registration and access token and all this. That time-consuming jobs. Well, right now you have this also features, and it's also free for 50,000 users, which is too much. And this is just a very, very quick overview. And right now, what we want to cover throughout this series is how to secure your Blazor web apps with the ASP.NET Core Web API through Active Directory B2C. So we will see in this video the general process, how it will go, and then we will create our tenant, we will create the server application, then register the client application, then creating the user flow, and so on. And then we'll go and create the application from the .NET CLI and make some edits in Visual Studio and then test this. And after that, we will start covering topics like branding and customizations, role-based authorization, and so on. But let's just stay right now in the present, and let's see basically the flow that you need to implement when you are trying to secure your applications with identity provider like Azure Active Directory B2C. So basically, the process starts by, this is your client application and this is your server app. So the client application requests to create an account and login. So the first process will start by accessing the B2C endpoint throughout the client registered application, and this will allow the client to enter the credentials, and then if everything is fine, if this user is already there and the username is right, the email is right, then this means the B2C will retrieve the access token back to the client. And as you can see, all this process happening externally outside of the ASP.NET Core API, this is great. So right now, the Blazor web application will try to access a protected resources in the ASP.NET Core API, and it will attach the access token in the header of the request. And before the API responds, it will go to the Active Directory, validate the token. If this is the required scope, if everything is okay, then go back to the client with the credentials. So this is it. This is actually in simple, like the general overflow of what we are going to implement, and we will see like in real how things is going, In addition to all this, of course, Azure Active Directory, yes, allows us to log in with external providers like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, and many other providers. We are going also to cover this. But for now, let's right now jump on to Azure and see how to get started with create our tenant and register the client and server applications and so on, and yeah, the user flow, and then let's say the real action. So here, right now, I'm in the Azure portal in my default directory. So to get started, I will go click on Create Resource, and here search for B2C, and choose that one. Click on Create. Okay, right now you will be asked to create a new B2C tenant or link an existing tenant. Of course, you want to start from scratch, so I'm going to choose this one. Now let's give it a name. So I will call it AK Academy, just like that. Right now the initial domain, so it will be the initial domain .onmicrosoft.com. So I will call it also AK Academy. Let's see if it's available. Oh, that's great, it's available. So right now I will create a new academy-rg, click OK, and let's click on Review and Create. Okay, here we go, validation passed. Let's click on Create. And right now we should just wait for 1 or 2 minutes and our tenant will be created successfully. So, okay, so our tenant has been created successfully. Right now, let's move to it, and basically all we have to do is just to click on this one. And yeah, let's wait a little bit. Oh, look at that. This is our new tenant, akacademy.onmicrosoft.com. And later on, if you want to switch for your tenant, so simply click here, switch directory, and you will find it here in the list of organizations you are associated to. So this is great. Now this is our tenant. This is the domain. And here we will register our applications here. Our user is going to be here. And here we have the user flows. So basically in Active Directory B2C, we have a set of user flow. User flows means like what the user can, what you are going to allow your users to do throughout their application. So for example, if you click on a new user flow, you will find this. So one of it is sign up and sign in. The other one is profile editing. The third one is reset password. You have only sign up, you allow the users only to sign in, or like allow sign in using resource owner, password credentials, and so on. So we are going to cover almost all of this stuff, but for this demo, we will get started by sign up and sign in. So this means when the client have access for when we will be redirected to the Active Directory B2C portal to log in, he will be able to create an account if he doesn't have already one, or to sign in with already the credential that he has. So we will click on this one right now to create one. This is the first step, and make sure that the user flows are on the level of that tenant and not on the level of the app registration. So this one in general for your tenants, you can create as many user flows as you want. So this is the version, and to create, basically you will be asked to choose recommended or legacy. Basically legacy will be like obsolete very soon, so we will go for recommended, click create. Now here we go, just a set of options to set. So first we'll start with the name, and I'm going to call it sign in up policy. So just like that. Right now the second question is to set up the identity provider. I'm going to choose for now email sign up, and later on you'll see how we're going to use other identity providers. And right now this is for the type of method of multi-factor authentication. We're going to use the email, not the phone number, and this is the conditional access, user attributes, and token claims. Now this is very important. When you are going to let the user create a new account, what type of data basically you want to have access? So what data you want to get from the users. So by default, there is an email, a password, and this are the essentials, but here you can access, for example, for the city, the country. And if you click show more, you have many other data over here. I will choose also display name and return a claim. After the token received, there is many claims that's already existing in the token, like the issuer and the audience and so on, the ID of the user. But if you want to retrieve also those in the claims, you can do that simply by just clicking this. So I will retrieve in the claim also the city, country, and display name, and the set of email addresses. So the other way to do that is to use Microsoft Graph to fetch this data, but we are not into this right now in this session. Okay, keep things as simple as possible, just to see how we can go ahead and have a powerful authentication system in just few minutes. This is the goal of this video, to cover all the stuff that you need to know to be able to do this process, and then we'll start to go deeper and deeper. So let's click create right now, and our user flow will be created. So yeah, look at that. Right now we have this user flow created. The other step is to go ahead and go to app registrations. So we need two applications. One for the server that actually will expose an API and expose and scope. So the client could have access for this scope and communicate with the API to validate the token. And the other application, which is the client, that will allow the user to create an account, sign in, fetch the token, and request access for a specific scope that will be requested by the API. So first of all, let's start creating the API project or the API application. I'm going to call it AK Academy API, just like this. Now, supported account types, you have three options. As you can see, accounts in this organization only, like allows only accounts for my current organization to be able to sign in, which is single tenant, or multi-tenant, but Azure Active Directory. This is like if they are in a business Active Directory organization or tenant. And the third one is any identity provider and from any tenant. So which is what we want. Like you can use your own Microsoft account or Gmail or Facebook, whatever we want to sign in. So this is what I'm going to choose. Because this is an API project, so it exposes an API. There isn't going to be redirection or any stuff. It will be just used to issue a scope and a token and to validate a token, sorry. So you don't need to set any of this stuff. Click register, and once the application is created, the upcoming step is to create a scope, or basically a permission that your API exposed to the client applications. So here on the left side, you have branding, authentication, certificates and secrets, API permissions, and expose an API. This is what you are interested in for the server application. So I will click over here, and basically, as you can see, define custom scope to restrict access to data and functionality protected by the API. So those are the permissions that your API exposes and request access, and to give access also to the client to access this protected APIs. So you can create as many scopes as you want, but for this application, I'm going to create only one scope that covers all the stuff. So when you create a scope for the first time, you will be asked to create an application ID URL. Just click Save and Next. Follow this same principle, which is your tenant domain / the application ID of the server. That's good. Right now, let's create the scope. The name of the scope, the display name that will be shown for the admin of a specific organization when any of the, or the admin when he wants to consent this permission for his organization, and the description. So I'm gonna call it API.readWrite. You can call it, for example, files.read, files.write, or calendar.read, calendar.write, calendar.share. So the functionality that your API exposes. In my case, I'm going to expose all of them under one permission. So I'll call it API.readWrite. Get full access. For example, allow the user to manage all the resources. For example, that's good. Let's click Add Scope. And this is just great. Right now, this is all what you need for the API application. Create the application, give it a name, and expose an API. And that's it. That's pretty simple. Right now, let's go back to the Active Directory B2C and click on New Registration. Let's create the client application. So for the client, I'll call it AK Academy _client. The same. And for the redirection, here, after the user logs in, he will be redirected back to that application because, you know, the login process will happen through the endpoint of from Azure Active Directory B2C. So after the logs in, the access token will be issued back, and this endpoint will redirect the user back to his website. And in our case, it's going to be a single page application because it's a Blazor WebAssembly, you know. And here you define your own URL, so it will be just like that. So I don't know the port. We will know this after creating the application. So are going to edit this or add another URL /authentication /login dash callback. Okay, from where I brought this slash authentication slash callback, because when I will create the Blazor WebAssembly application configured with individual B2C authentication, there is the Microsoft authentication library, or known as MSAL. So this library is actually handling all this authentication process, and it adds some components to the project to handle this redirection, take the token, and take responsibility for all the stuff. So this one is being registered by the MSAL. So I'll click on register. Okay, just wait a little bit. And here we go. Our client application has been created successfully. So this is the application ID. We are interested in this. And if you remember, in the server application, we checked expose an API, because that application will expose an API, but the client actually is doing the opposite. A client will request access for an already existing scope. So we are not going to expose, we will go to API permissions, which means what permission this application will issue basically for the user. So I will add a permission. And you can see here right now, there is commonly used Microsoft APIs permissions. And for example, if you click over here, you will see all like application, calendar, all the stuff from Microsoft, Microsoft Graph, people, user, email, Outlook, calendar, whatever it is. But we are not interested in this, but you can do that. We are interested in My APIs. And once you click on My APIs, you will see that automatically detects that there is an application in this organization called AK Academy API, and actually it exposes a set of scopes. So let's choose that, and you will see that we have only one scope or one permission. Let's choose it, add permission. So once the user, after the user logs in, he will be able to request access for this scope that actually allows him to be able to call the API. So I'll click grant admin consent for AK Academy. So yeah, this is just for me now. So this is great. Now if I go to authentication over here, so here you can see that the URL that we have, and I'm gonna add another one. This is for when launching the application from the CMD, the Blazor app. We will add another one when we launch the application from the IIS Express. And when you go live, don't forget to also come here and add your live domain over here, /authentication/login callback. So this is everything you need to do on the level of the Azure and the level of the Azure Active Directory B2C. Right now, let's move to the other part, which is creating the application and get started with that. So basically, there is one thing. Currently, Microsoft Visual Studio doesn't have an already template to create a Blazor WebAssembly with an ASP.NET Core API and authenticated with Azure Active Directory B2C. So if you want to do so, you have to make sure to create this using the .NET CLI. So we have already a command, it's already available. I will share the full article from Microsoft in the description box below. But you can follow what I'm doing because, okay, open this one. Yeah, so this is the CLI, that, as you can see, the PowerShell. So I'll type a command, which is to create a new application, which is .NET New Blazor WASM. Now, I should define the authentication, which is individual user account with Active Directory B2C. To do so, let's set this AU, which is an abbreviation for authentication, and individual B2C. This is how it's called. And right now, our application will be B2C, but currently it's only for WebAssembly. We need also to have an API, so I will make this application ASP.NET Core hosted. So the API will serve the client. They are not going to be two separated applications hosted in two different hosts. No, they are going to be one application that the API will serve the client, and they will be the same domain, so we will not suffer from the issue of cross-origin. And to do that, just define this flag, -hu, which means it's hosted. This Blazor is hosted in ASP.NET Core Web API. And -o, which is the output. What is the name of the application? I will call it AK Cloud. What is the name of the folder? AK Academy Cloud App. And yeah, basically this is it. What you're going to see on the Microsoft, that there is other command that you can define here, the client app URL and the server app URL, the scoops and all the stuff. But I prefer to follow this short command, and then we can do other stuff from within Visual Studio. So let's just hit create or enter. Wait a little bit. Okay, here we go. Our application has been created. If we go for this one, you can see right now that we have a client, which is the Blazor app, server, traditional API, and the shared that actually for now that had this famous weather forecast.cs model. And we have this SLM project. So let's open it up in Visual Studio and see the magic actually they have done for us with this little comment. And I'll make sure to also put this comment in the description box. So that's great. So you can see over here, we have the client, we have the server, and we have the shared project. If you open the client, it's a normal Blazor WebAssembly app. But if you go to program.cs, you're going to notice over here that we have some stuff that's already existing, not empty. Here, you have builder.services.add msal authentication, or the Microsoft authentication library authentication. And basically this one is responsible for implementing that authentication mechanism. Here they are already setting up an HTTP client for us associated with HTTP message handler. And this is a HTTP client factory to serve this HTTP client instance. So what this HTTP message handler is, basically this one is the same when you have in the ASP.NET Core application, you have middlewares and the request goes from one middleware to the other. Messaging handler is just the same on the client. Your HTTP request, before it goes from the client to the server, it goes through a messaging handler. If you want, of course, if you configured any messaging handler, in our case we have this one, and you can manipulate the request as you want and then release it to the server. So what this message handler that's already built in for us, what it actually does is simply fetching the access token, setting it in the header, and send it. So whenever you want to send a request, you don't have to worry about the headache of fetching the access token, setting it in the header, and set the type to period token, and so on. This message handler is already taking responsibility of this. And as you can see that the base address of this HTTP client is just the current host environment because it's an hosted application. So the API and the client application had the same URL. So this is great. Now, what are the things that we will notice? If you go here in the shared, you'll have a login display that shows a login button if you are not logged in, or a logout button, and hello, your name, in case. And we have in the pages, we have this authentication library as a page or authentication component. And as you can see, this is /authentication. There is an action called /callback, and this remote authenticator view is responsible to read the token from the URL and do all the magic stuff. So as you can see, everything is 100% ready for you. The same on the server. Sorry, if you go to program.cs, startup, come on. So yeah, here we are also using the same Microsoft Identity Web API to secure this one. You see this magical line is responsible for all of this. So whenever you want, just add authorize, and then this one is authorized. You cannot have access without this one. And the same with the client. Whenever you want to protect any page, just do this one, set an attribute for this page, authorize, and then you cannot have access until you are logged in. So when the user, if he is not logged in trying to access this one, he will be redirected to the Microsoft Active Directory B2C to log in, and then if you logged in successfully, you will be able to get access for this page. So this is great right now, but before we go ahead and launch the application, there is just a little configuration we need to set up in the app settings.json on the client on the server. I will start on the client. If I open app settings.json, you can see over here, you have this section that actually has all the settings related to your Active Directory B2C instance and application. So how you are going to define the authority? This one is just a generic template. So here you have to define the name of the instance. Let me go to Azure to show you how you get this. Go to overview. So just get the first part, paste it here, sorry, no need for all the stuff, akacademy.b2clogin.com/ your domain name, which is this one, akacademy.microsoft.com, and at the end, the name of your user flow that you're following. So if we go to user flows, okay, you're going to see that we have created this one, just like this. This is pretty simple. So we have defined the authority. It's a generic template. Your initial name of the domain .b2clogin.com / your domain / the name of the policy or the flow you want to follow. Right now we have the client ID. So the client ID application, I will go to app registrations over here. You'll see we have two, API and the client. I will go to the client and bring this one. Paste it over here and save. This is all what you need for this app settings. The last thing is for program.cs, there is always a default access token scope you have to define. So whenever the user logs in, there is as I've said, a default scope will be accessed. So what I'm gonna do to bring that scope URL, simply go to API permissions, click on the scope, and you can find the URL of it existing here. So take it and paste it here, and that's it. Right now, the client is 100% ready. Let's click save. Now let's move to the server. I'll go to app settings.json. We also have the same. Define the instance. It's just like this, akacademy.b2clogin.com, the client ID, but of the server application. So I will go back to B2C. This is the API, open it. And you have the application client ID. Make sure it's of the API. Because sometimes if you are like not familiar too much with this topic, sometimes some students like mix between the client application and because they are both called the client ID, but make sure to the server application and to the client application. Now for the domain, as you know, the domain is the initial, the same, but .onmicrosoft.com, and the name of the sign-in policy. So let's bring it from the client or from here. And I will choose this one and paste it here. So make sure that everything is correct and fine. Now let's save this one and click save. And simply, this is all what you need. If you go to user forecast right now, you can see it's authorized. So this means we couldn't have access for this one until the user is logged in and have already an account. So here there is something, if you want to, because in our demo we have only one scope, so once the user is logged in, then he has access for all the stuff. Here you can, for example, for this controller, set a specific scopes to access. And so scope required by API. So you can, for example, to access this one, you need this scope and this scope and this scope. But in our case, because we have one, I'm going to disable this. We are going to cover this in more details in another session. But because we have one scope, which is enough for our demo, now let me save this one. And, or before saving, I will set a breakpoint over here. I'll go to the client, pages, fetch data, and you see this one is also authorized. And look at this HTTP client injected over here. We are not setting access token because the authorization message handler I've showed to you at the beginning is already doing this process. It's going, requesting that access token for the default scope, and then it will send the request to the server. So this is all what we need. Now we can run, but before doing that, I should go to properties, launch settings. I have set this callback URL, but I need to add a new one for this port, of course. So I will copy this port. I will go to the client application, go to authentication. So for example, if this application is being used by multiple platforms, here I already have a single page platform, but You can have multiple URLs under it. And if you have another platforms like desktop or Android or whatever, you can simply add this one from platform here. So I'll add a URL, localhost, paste this one, /authentication /login dash callback. So let's make sure it's well written. Yeah, authentication. That's it. Click save. Now everything is great. We have, just by doing this, we have a very powerful and efficient authentication system with creating an account and validation and all the stuff. Let's run the application and see what we have and the magic that we are going to see in just the few minutes that we have done. So you can see there is no two browsers windows. It's going to be only one because it's a hosted application. So this means they are not on two separated hosts. So, and they have one URL because the server is providing the client actually. So here we go. This is what you have to see. And here you have a login button, and there is, you can see a normal Blazor application, but which data is protected. So if you click login, let's see what you're going to see. You will be redirected to Microsoft. And wow, look at that. This is some magical stuff over here happens. We will see also another video how this page is 100% customizable. So you can make it fit the brand of your application. We will add another identity providers like Facebook and LinkedIn and so on. But for now, this is powerful. And if I didn't log in, and if I go to fetch data because it's protected, I'll be asked again to log in. So I cannot log in because I don't have an account. Let me click on sign up. Oh, look at this. So imagine all of that is just ready for you as a UI, as a code, as a logic of authentication. Very powerful. So why you have to go ahead and create all that table and write all the logic behind all the processes that's actually available over here. So I will start by creating my account. So click on send verification code. I like this process that they actually send the verification code on spot. So you cannot continue creating an account if you are doesn't have the verification code from the beginning. I received the email, and you can see Microsoft on behalf of AK Academy tries to log you in. This is my code. Paste it here. Okay, it seems I didn't copy it well. So 668076. 668076. Click verify code. And here we go. It's verified. Let me set the password. Set my city and set the country and my display name. And let's hit create. Let's see. Now it will redirect, you see, to this page. And here we go. We are logged in. But, oh, the application stopped and we get an error. So let's see what we have got over here. If I open up the console application, failed to load resource, the server responded with 500. Okay, that's interesting. I will go for this one. So this breakpoint doesn't hit, so this means there is something wrong with the settings of this one. Interesting. So I think on the level of the client, everything is fine because we have logged in and we were able to access the fetch data. But on the server, if I check the output window, enable. Okay, it seems there is an issue in the, let me review the settings wheel I have over here. So AK, oh, sorry for that. I have, let me check this one. Oh, like I mistyped AK Academy, it's AK Academy. There is no A, so it's my bad. Sorry for that. So I will paste this, sorry for that. And on the server, this one, there is no A because, okay, sorry for this one. Sorry for this one. Now the name is not that good, but anyway, review the names very well before you proceed with the creation process. So this is why I found AK Academy available because AK Academy shouldn't be available, but AK Academy is available. That's fine. Now I'll go back, click login. Okay. Did I change anything on the level of the client? Yeah, I added the A over here back. Sorry. So let's close this one and close this one. That window stay open. Try again. So click on login again. Here we go. It's going fine. Let's try to enter my credentials. Okay. Here we are logged in. Great. Now if we go to fetch data on the second, and here we go. We have get the breakpoint hit, and the reason why is, as I've said, I was setting those configurations wrong because I mistyped the name over here. But that's fine. Right now we were able to hit the breakpoint, even if it's authorized. And if I click like that, so we got the famous table of Microsoft. So you have seen in this video, like, I hope that you have seen many great things and you have learned how to implement this powerfully in your application and solutions, how you can just in a few minutes, if you forget about the time to explanation and just concentrate on what we have done. Actually, they are a pretty short period, about 15 minutes, and you can get your application just ready to go. Start with the business logic, forget about anything else related to the authentication, and a lot of other things that are going to be covered. So I hope you enjoyed this video like me, explaining about this awesome topic. I like it so much because you can see the power of all this amazing identity platform available for you in just a few clicks and settings. And we can go here to users and we can see the user that has been created. You can check the audit and sign-ins and a lot of the profile, whatever it is. So you have a lot of power existing behind this project. So, and you are always feeling comfortable because if you have 1,000 users, it will work very fine. If you have 1 million users, it will work very fine. If you will have 100 million users, it's also will work very fine. So this is the power of the cloud. So I hope like you are enjoying it just like me. So, and also I hope you're enjoying the pack of AK Academy. So I will put the code in addition to some resources on GitHub, and the links will be existing in the description box below. And don't forget, of course, to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it, of course, and as a kind of support. So thank you so much, guys, and see you in the next video.